not get elected in the primary will go to a runoff, which we call the general election in November.
Okay, and so recently we had the candidate filing. How did that go for you guys?
The process itself went very smooth. We usually try to get all of those dates out well ahead of time to make our citizens aware that the candidate filing period it's a 3-day window where they can come and file their intent to run for elective office. So the process itself went very smooth. We had it over in the Housing Authority building here in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. So we had a total of, I believe, 18 candidates. And that's off the top of my head. I have to go back and actually look at the list.
Yeah, I will say that for a candidate filing, that might have been one of the, or Mvskoke Media, we hung out in a separate area, but we that was kind of one of the most boring days that I had to deal with because I was kind of expecting something exciting to happen, and I was out in the hallway trying to stay awake.
Well, sometimes reality doesn't live up to expectations. Even though it's an important process, sometimes it's not always the most exciting of processes.
Oh yeah, no, it being boring probably is a good thing for you guys,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's smooth. Your term is smoothly, so that's good,
We've got your list of candidates, but first of all, what does it take to be able to be eligible, I guess, to file for an office with the Mvskoke Creek Nation?
Okay, so I know we got a time constraint, so I'm just going to try to be as thorough as I can. So really, there are qualifications that are in the Constitution for chief, second chief, and for national council representatives, and there are also a few qualifications that are in the Creek Nation's Codex and Title 19, which governs our office and our board. So the qualifications, you have to be what is considered a full citizen of the Mvskoke Creek Nation, which in historical terms means a 4th degree of Creek blood or more. For chief, no felony convictions ever. National council representatives, no felony convictions within the past 10 years upon the date of filing. For chief, you have to be at least 30 years of age. For national council, 18 years of age. You have to be a registered voter for at least 6 months prior to filing. And you pay the filing fee, which for chief is $1,500, second chief is $1,000, national council reps are $500, and last but not least, residency for the chiefs. You have to be a resident within the reservation boundaries for at least a full calendar year upon the date of filing. And for national council representatives, you have to be a full-time resident for at least one full calendar year within the district that you intend on serving in. So, in a nutshell, that's the qualification.
So it looks like all incumbents had decided to run again, and then but there's only about 3 districts with contest, right?
That is correct. I believe, as it stands right now, the filing for Wagner District, Tuckabutchee District, Mvskoke District, Tulsa District, and Mvskoke District went unopposed, meaning that only one person came and filed for those offices. So if nothing changes as of today, then those contests would be considered unopposed, and they would automatically be declared the winners for those elective offices.
And those filed were the incumbents, I do believe. I don't think there was any newcomers on those. Like I said, Mvskoke Media was there to be on scene, and so if you can also view the unofficial list on your Facebook, right?
That is correct. We have that posted on our Facebook page of all the people that came and filed. over that 3-day period. And you are correct in stating that all of the individuals that filed for those uncontested seats were currently the seat holders for those respective positions.
And that's good, but so these other ones look pretty interesting. There'll be some good people against each other. And so what would you tell voters to do, or potential voters? What about voter registration? What do you have to say about that?
Oh, voter registration is still open. It will be open until September 5th. I would believe that a lot of our citizens and voters would be interested in the absentee filing date. So the last day to request an absentee ballot is going to be August 23rd. So naturally, we would expect you to be registered to vote by August 23rd in order to request an absentee ballot. So that's a pretty important date for, I would say, for all voters, especially those interested in casting a ballot by absentee. So that'll be the last day to do that. But an also interesting point for our voters is the first batch of absentee ballots for all of those voters who have already requested one will be going out on August 17th. So August 17th will be the first initial mail out of absentee ballots, but we do have till August 23rd to get the last request in before we mail the last crop of absentee ballots out to the voters.
Let me ask you a question that is, I guess, theoretical still. I noticed in some of the information we get about legislation coming to the council that someone had brought up a bill that would change the way voters make their choices in their districts. Once upon a time, you voted for only the candidates in your district, and then that was changed to a more general vote for whoever you wanted to kind of thing. And then now this new bill, which I don't think has progressed, would change that back to the old style, stay within your district. Now, has that presented any surprises or problems for you all?
So naturally the council, asked the board's opinion on what ramifications that would have, particularly to this election, if that were to pass. The board's here really to follow the letter of the law. So whatever the law states, ultimately that's what the board is going to do. But to answer your question more directly, the only suggestion that the board had would, if you wanted to make it a seamless transition into that, going back to that style of electing the council, was we were asked that, maybe we can get that activated during the next election in order to not interrupt any of the processes that were happening for this up-and-coming election here in September and the general in November. And along with that, goes this would be a constitutional amendment that we're talking about in order to achieve that goal. So it's going to have to go on a vote before the people, and we requested that you give us, maybe at least until the general election to get that on the absentee ballot. So that way we make sure that everything's done correct, that the absentee voters, see that on their ballot when we mail it out. So that's the only thing that the board asked, was that you just give us a little time to make that possible should that be the ultimate outcome of that legislation.
Right. Give it time for discussion between the voters and other folks, and make sure they know what's going on then.
Yeah, correct.
Well, that's interesting, and I think so. We may have to catch up with you on that in the future, but I think now we'll focus on what we got going on. So, what are the future dates coming up? Phone numbers, contacts, things like that. What can we expect to see here shortly?
Okay, so we do have I want to give a shout out to this. We do have a text messaging service that you can that you can basically sign up for if you want to receive. We send out messages weekly, reminders about upcoming dates and stuff. You can find all of that information on our website and on our Facebook page. But if you want to call and talk directly to us, our office number is 918-732-7631. You can find our link on Creek Nation's homepage on their website. You just scroll down until you see the independent agencies. Look for the election board. We're on there, and we got all kinds of information where all of our forms are for voter registration, absence. And I'll just go ahead and reiterate the date. The last day to register to vote for this election is September the 5th. The last day to request an absentee ballot is August 23rd. Early voting occurs on September 13th and 14th, and the primary election itself will be on Saturday, September 16th.
Awesome. And I know you probably get asked this all the time, but how important is voting?
Voting is very important. Voting is the cornerstone of any democratic society, any democratic government. I would suggest that every person exercise that right to vote, whether it's on our own tribal elections, your local elections, state elections, because that is the loudest way to make your voice heard as a citizen for whatever it is that you're looking at, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. That is the most for sure way to make your voice heard is by casting your vote.
What kind of numbers are we talking about? We've all discussed the importance of voting, but how is our tribe doing? What percentage, perhaps, or even the numbers of votes that you get?
I would say out of, and I'm just going to go ahead and round up here, out of close to 100,000 citizens that were at approximately, we have just a little over 18,000 that are actually registered to vote. And back in the 2019 election, which was the last chief election, we had just a hair over 5,200 people cast their ballots. So we're looking at a very small number. And but to put that in context, you look at the Cherokee Nation, which has basically double our population. They had an even smaller turnout this past election for their own. So even though numbers across the board for elections in general are low, we're not the worst case scenario. But having said that, I'm still not happy with our turnout, and we do try to push that out there as much as we possibly can. That it is important to make your voice heard and to make your vote count, because this is really an election, and our elections, and people can see it, that your vote literally does matter and it does count. It could one or two votes could sway an election for us either way. So everybody's vote, especially when it comes to ours, is very important.
Yeah, I looked at some of the data from past elections that you guys have available on your pages, and some of them were cut pretty close at times, so. But I also see a trend in our numbers growing from our very first election till now. And I know that our population has grown in general, but you can see a much more participation from people compared to a 1980s chief election of 500 votes till now. They're getting 2,000, 1,500 votes. So it is growing, and you guys do a great job of promoting voter participation.
Yeah, well, we do what we can, and we just, we're here to provide a service for our citizens. And like I said, even though sometimes it does get busy around here, we're always open to people's, calls, questions. I think the worst thing a citizen could do is not contact us and not be aware of what's going on, because, at the end of the day, if you want to know something, just I don't think any question's too taboo for us. Just give us a call, and we'll try to help you however we can.
Right. We'd rather have them contact you directly than deal with the rumor mill or make up stuff. Or right. Let me ask you your thoughts on this, and we'll get out of your way here. Our tribe has been, our nation rather, has been dealing with some heavy duty issues going back to the feds and to the U.S. Supreme Court, and then a battle with our governor. We're talking about debating issues of sovereignty and the rights of our citizens. So, what do you say? Is voting becoming far more important than it might have been in past years?
Yes, I believe that, and since I am going to be talking on behalf of our nation's elections, I will, say that more so now, maybe in the past, especially with a lot of the partisan stances that you see in our state government, especially as it pertains to, in this case, the governor and his stance against our sovereignty as a tribal nation. I think it's very important that people get active and get engaged in voting, because you run the numbers with the not just our nation, but with combine that with the other tribal nations here in the state of Oklahoma. That is a very large voting block, and like I said earlier, that's the loudest way to make your voice heard. If our tribal nations would engage more in the political process as far as voting, then the governor and whatever state elected official would see that, and that would make them, I would just say that would make them more willing to work with us if they saw that big of a voting block, because that would definitely have an impact on them, and they would be more, more apt to work with us than against us than they have in the recent history.
Right, and I think people should understand we're talking about voting for people that are your representation, and at a federal level now. So you want that person to be the right person that's going to speak for you and your family and your district, your kids, your grandparents, all that. So we appreciate you, Nelson, for hopping on with us today, and I hope that this continues to run smoothly. If anybody else needs help, we'll get a hold of Nelson at 918-732, and what's those last four?
7631.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. You have a good day.
Righto.
Uh-huh. Bye.
Okay, we're going to take a short pause here, and punched the wrong button there. We are going to take a short pause here, and we're going to get our bookstore owner and have an interesting chat about her and her business and the product that she shares. So stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio.
I started doing it when I was 11. I wanted to be just like my big brother. And some of my friends were already doing it. We got hooked fast. I just can't get enough. I'm Jacob, and I'm addicted to playing the drums.
There's lots of stuff that makes it cool to be native. Doing meth isn't one of them. Find something better to do. Check out ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Who am I? Am I native? I don't want people assuming things because I'm Indian. I just want to be me. But how do I live in two worlds? Some guys just check out by doing meth. But that ain't for me. Because I see my family, my friends, my drum making, my future. There are a lot of cool things about being who I am. And meth isn't one of them.
Learn more at ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians. Who am I? Am I Indian? Just 'cause I'm a girl from the res, don't make things up about me. What if I move away? Then who am I? Some kids try meth just to escape, but then I think about my grandma, my little brother, my beadwork, my poetry, and I think, I like who I am. And I know meth is not for me.
Check out ncai.org, a message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Okay, we're back here on Mvskoke Radio, and we have our next guest lined up on the horn here. Morgan, tell us a little about Claudette.
Miss Robertson owns a bookstore called Deer Clan Bookstores out of Bethany, Oklahoma, and I actually got in touch with her through, I don't know if you guys remember Robert Harmon. He was a citizen who wrote a children's book. We've had him on before. He actually shot me her email and stuff and was telling me a little bit about Claudette, and I thought her story was a little bit interesting. She has an event going on this week that's going to be a pretty cool event, and she needs people to come. She needs some support, guys, so yeah.
Hello, Claudette. Are you there? Are you with us?
Hello.
Okay. We understand that you've got an interesting business here, and there's a little bit of activity going on in your end of the world that you want to share with us. So tell us about Deer Clan Bookstore.
Right. Well, Deer Clan Bookstore is my retirement plan. I retired from education, 30 years in education, 2 years ago. And when the pandemic hit in 2020, they sent us home from school to work at home. And I just said, you know, God, I don't think I'm going to be very happy sitting in my recliner when I retire, so I got to do something else. So I opened a bookstore, and I think people thought I was crazy. I probably was a little crazy to open a bookstore during the middle of the pandemic, but that's what I had been wanting to do for about 15 years, and so I did it. And so we've been, this is our third year. This July is our third year opening, and Friday night we'll be having an anniversary celebration for 3 years. Plus, I do a lot of Oklahoma author book signings, and I have 87 authors right now. I do a consignment program, and they come in and do a book signing, and I carry their books, and I've got 87 Oklahoma authors. One of them is J.D. Colbert. And he wrote Between Two Fires, the Creek murders during the oil industry, during the birth of the oil industry.
So how did you kind of get into contact with all these people and get them to come participate in your book signing?
You know, I don't remember the initial, how I did the initial contact. I think I just put it out there on Facebook and said, looking for Oklahoma authors. And I am been in education. I've met a lot of different people who, you know, might have been writers, and so I just started telling people as I would run into them, and then they would tell other people, and so there are some writers groups here in the metro area, in Oklahoma City metro area, and they tell each other, and it's a network of people, and in the last 2 weeks I've gotten about 10 more Oklahoma authors signed up. They all want to come on Friday night. On Friday night, we will be having refreshments and some door prizes, and I have about 25 of those authors who will be having their books on display and meeting the public. And so everybody wants to be there, but I only have space for like 25. So.
Well, that's crazy. Claudette, now, what is it about a bookstore, this kind of business, that attracted you to put all your time and energy and, I presume, resources into it?
Yes, all of that and more. Well, I was born and raised in California. I just moved back home here to Oklahoma in '93. And we lived way up in the hills of Northern California, and I went to a little elementary school. I was about 8 years old. I walked outside of school to walk home, and across the street was this big wooden box, and it had wheels and a stairway. So I walked over there. I was curious, and I walked up the stairs, and inside there were shelves with books on them, and it turned out to be a bookmobile. And I had never heard of that before, and we didn't have a library in that little country town. And so I started reading Zane Grey books, all those westerns and Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales. And I just got hooked on reading, and I just have always read and always have something with me. And when I was in California, I did a lot of grant writing for some tribes, and so I read the Federal Register a lot. And I used to, laugh with my friends and say, "Yeah, I go to bed with the Federal Register," and and I read that quite a bit. So I learned a lot about Indian law, and I graduated with my master's from Humboldt State University in the Indian Teacher Education and Personnel Program in Arcata, California.
That's amazing that you could go through the Federal Register and obtain this material. I used to have to do that a lot myself when I worked in Washington, and talk about some dull reading. So how did you force yourself to do that?
You know what? I just, all my education and my studies, and I even went as far as finishing all my doctoral studies at Oklahoma State University, except for the dissertation. So I'm ABD. But the fascination, I was raised in an area where I lived and played with all the Hoopa and Yurok and Pomo and Wailaki people. So I've just always been around Indians. And then my mother, my family are the Robinsons from Waleetka, and there were 10 kids, and my mom had 4, and so we were, lived around all those different tribal people, and just always being raised with them, and in and out of their homes, and it just was something I was just always interested in learning more about.
So when it comes to your bookstore and hosting these authors, do you have a lot of Native authors?
I don't have a lot of Native authors. I have kind of put the word out there to people. When JD was at the store, some of the Creek people from the metro area here came, and so they know what I do, and I've tried to get more Oklahoma authors who are Native, but they're kind of hidden in the woodwork, I guess. I don't know. They don't come out too much, but I'm not sure how to reach those if they're not on Facebook or they're not reading my reading my newsletter. I send a newsletter out to probably over 1,000 people that I have email addresses, and I send that out once or twice a month.
How about somebody like Joy Harju?
Oh, now she's a big name, and it's hard to get those big name people. I carry her books, but I getting in touch with her and having her come. I don't have a budget to pay people,
right.
So I just do everything on consignment. Mm-hmm. I do have a section in my store on Indian books. I have some academic text for learning about different contemporary issues. I have some fiction. There's an author by the name of Dana Stabenow, and she's from Alaska. She's non-Indian, but she writes about the native corporations up there, and she's an excellent writer. So you learn something about the park and the native corporations up there when you read her fiction books, because she does a very good job of researching. So I have a mix of a book called Navajo Voices of Navajo Mothers and Daughters. It's an excellent picture book. So I have different books like that, but getting in touch with Native authors has kind of been a kind of a mystery, a kind of a dilemma.
I feel like authors are kind of like that in general. Like, you read their books, but sometimes you don't ever see their face, But what are some of your favorite reads?
Well, I like the Dana Stabenow. I like to read. I've read every one of her books about the park, and there are 23 different books. And And I like to read crime drama. I like Michael Connelly, you know, and then they came on with Hieronymus Bosch, you know, the series on one of the Streamline stations. I also like to read inspirational faith-based books on how to be a better person, and I also like to read on stuff that just educates me, you know, different things that educate me. I really like, I forgot that a few years back, Greenwood Press invited me to write some chapters in a series they were doing on the American Indian. And so I wrote the history of the California Indians and the history of, I believe, New Jersey. And so that's in a 3-volume set, those 2 different chapters that were published by ABCLIO out of Southern California.
So you're a little bit of an author yourself.
Yeah, and I've written quite a few book reviews over the years. I used to work for an outfit here in Bethany that had a publishing arm of its. It was a nonprofit church, and they had a publishing arm based out of Franklin Springs, Georgia. And I used to write children's Sunday school material, curriculum, and book reviews and articles for them. And then, and I was in that publishing industry for about 7 years.
So it sounds like you have a good mixture of stuff there yourself. We don't have too much time, but I'm glad to hear all the variety that people can see in your store, and even just talking to you, sounds like you have a lot of little mixture yourself in this industry. What can you tell us a little bit more about your event, the date, the time, maybe some feature authors?
Right. Okay, so it's this Friday, July 28th, from 6 to 8 p.m. We will be having refreshments and door prizes. I've got 25 authors set up to have their individual little stations where people can come and meet them and talk with them about their books. The books range from crime drama to faith-based to, here's my dog and he's the most wonderful thing in the world. And then I've got a wide selection of children's books and several children's books authors. And so every first and third Saturday we have story time at 11 a.m. and those children's books authors read to the children. And it's open to the public. Friday night's open to the public. We're located at 3905 North College Avenue in Bethany, Oklahoma, 73008. Our phone number is 405-495-9005. And we are also, I don't have a website, but there is a website that independent booksellers such as myself use, and it's called bookshop.org. And if people can't make it to the store, they can order any book on bookshop.org, and bookshop.org will give my store credit. There's just a little icon at the top right hand where you click that, and it goes to my store link, to the link to my store, and so then my store gets credit for any books they buy on bookshop.org.
Awesome. So everybody, Miss Claudette is needing some support for her little bookstore here. She's in a small town right outside of OKC. We have some listeners, I'm sure, up there, and a number of citizens up there. So spread the word. If you don't have anything to do on Friday night after work, stop by and get you, check out the books, maybe meet an author you like, and get you a refreshment.
I do have one other thing. I have an event room that I rent out, and it's large enough for probably about 40 people. And clubs, organizations, business meetings, it's available. You can call that number and set up a time to have your meeting there. And, and we welcome everybody, and all kinds of books, all nationalities, all races. And I love to see people come in the door, new people I love to meet. And I love Oklahoma, and I'm glad I came back home. I call it coming back home to Oklahoma, even though I wasn't born and raised there, because my people are from Olathe.
Okay, yeah, I see. This is home if you're a Creek person for sure. We were made to come here, so here we are. It's our home. All right, Miss Claudette. Well, we'll see. I'll be seeing you probably Friday as long as schedule works out. And we're glad to have you on today. And we're going to have to let you go.
Okay, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Mado.
Mado.
All right, everybody. You can get that information on our Facebook. We've set out a flyer for Miss Claudette's event on Friday. And so now we are going to pull up some of our summer youth interns. We had 3 today. We're going to take a short break while we get them set up, though. All right.
Hear that? That's the sound of Hope being killed by meth. Methamphetamine use is causing huge problems in our community. Hear that? That's the sound of something you can do about it. Events like rodeo, res ball, and family time can help keep kids away from meth.
Talk to your kids. Keep our culture alive. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Learn more at ncai.org.
All right, everybody. So now we have with us the Mvskoke Media Summer Youth Interns. And all 3 of you were summer youth interns, right? Including you, Mercedes? All right. If you could just start by introducing yourselves. We'll start with Mercedes first, putting you on blast.
It's Shay. My name's Mercedes Dunn, and this is my 2nd year at Mvskoke Media, but I've been doing summer youth since I was 16.
Yeah, we had Mercedes with us last year, and she was really great. She's a lot of fun. You might have seen her at festival a couple times with us. She's a little short thing and with always smiling. All right, Callie, what about you?
I'm Callie Perez. I'm a junior in high school. This is my first year doing summer youth, and it's been a great experience.
Yeah, so Callie, you're kind of working more in the back with the graphic design, correct?
Yes.
And how do you like that?
I mean, I've been glad to help them out. There's a lot for them to do with so few people, just helping getting books together and the store ready.
All right, Ethan, we'll bug you for a second. This is Ethan Hall. He just graduated high school, so we have a good mixture here. We got Mercedes, who's in college, Callie, who's on her last legs of high school, and Ethan, who just got out. Ethan, how's your experience been?
I like it. I like working in the back, helping out, like Callie said, and seeing how things are made in preparation for Creek Fest and how shirts are made and things like that.
Yeah, so you've had a lot of fun, I guess, huh? Ethan's mom works with us. She works in the front, so he kind of had an idea of where he wanted to work for summer youth, I think. What got your attention in the media area, you guys? Who wants to go first?
For me, I was always interested in taking photos and videos, and I actually go to school for communications. So I think it was like the perfect job and just the perfect fit for what I go to school for.
I've always been the type of like artistic person, just interested in, photography, the design and writing side of things. And my dad works for the tribe, so I kind of knew, and he had connections to be like, hey, we can get you in here. And it seemed right.
Oh, okay, who's your dad?
Gano Perez.
Oh, okay, yes. He had emailed me about a story not too long ago. Yeah, so, and I've spoke with him. He's a really nice guy. Yeah. What about you, Ethan? What kind of got you interested in this area?
I've always been interested in how, like, a radio show works and how art is made, but I've never been good at art, so I haven't really done that. But, and I couldn't find, like, any other, like, summer youth jobs because they were all filled because I applied late, but then my mom was like, you can work here with me, and I was like, okay, I would like that.
Pretty simple, huh? Well, I'll tell you what, Ethan, I'm not very artistic myself, but I've learned that I'm a better writer than I am a visionary for graphics, so what are you going to do after here? Mercedes, you can start again.
I'll be going back to school to finish my associates and then just continue school.
And you're doing a media degree, right, or communications?
Yeah, I was doing media communications, but now I'm just in communications, so it's a little bit more broad.
Okay, and you have a couple more years of summer youth left if you wanted to. So maybe we'll see you again.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. Come back. No, Mercedes has been really great, and she's done a lot. You might have seen some of her. Well, all of you have put something in the paper this summer, right? You've had a couple stories. You want to talk about those stories?
Yeah, so I was just told to write. I did a lot of interviews, and I did a lot of my stories over the live wires on YouTube that we do, and that's really it.
What were those topics? Do you remember?
A lot of them were films. I did the Lakota film that Gary brought on the show, and I also did Rebecca Lansbury and Angel for Bad Press, and the tour that took, and the European tour, and also Circle Center premiering it, and all the awards they've done. Mainly, I've done a lot of documentaries, which I enjoyed actually writing over.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, getting in that entertainment spectrum of it. It's interesting to see people's reactions to, some of these different things they're coming out with. But you stayed pretty busy. It sounded like you had probably something in each edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Good job. Callie, I know you've had one or two?
A couple articles, yeah.
What topics have you searched over or written over?
I covered over the new banner printer that the Mvskoke Media, the creative department got, just giving some information about that and how great it is compared to the other one.
I think they needed it for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. I know that for sure. And have you got to work on it at all?
I haven't personally worked with it, but I've seen some of the others working with it. And
is it really high tech?
Yeah.
I wouldn't touch it either. I don't want to put my hands on that. Is that one of the only things you've covered, or?
I also covered over during Creek Fest. I wrote about the art fair that they had there, all the vendors selling, and
what was that experience like?
It was nice just going and kind of asking about their process and how much work goes into something that might seem so simple to other people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you don't really know until you start talking to them. That's the cool thing about kind of this job is that you learn so much about so many different topics.
Yeah.
So anything else?
Just those two.
And what about you, Ethan? I know you've had what?
I've only had one in the newspaper so far.
Yeah. What'd you like? How did you feel when you got in the newspaper?
I was like, wow, I'm actually in the newspaper.
Like an author.
On the paper.
Yeah, kind of like a reporter. What did you write about?
I wrote about the new Mvskoke Media Festival T-shirt that we were selling this year, and I interviewed the person who designed it and what their inspiration was.
So what is interviewing like for you guys? Does it make you kind of nervous, or do you feel like people are nervous talking to you? Or are you like, I don't know if I could get used to this?
It makes me kind of nervous to interview them because I'm like, what do I say?
You feel like you're interrogating them?
Yeah.
The most nerve-wracking part of it is approaching them and knowing how to approach them, just trying to figure out kind of how they want to be spoken to and figuring that out.
Right, communication skills type thing. What about you, Mercedes?
I think it was easier for me to interview people around my age, but when it got to older, it was hard. But I think I can do it now. It's just more professional topics.
Yeah, and it takes getting used to. You know what I mean? You guys are all still young girls and guys, and you got, when you'll get older and start talking to old people, and it'll be, you know what I mean? It's when you're in high school or college, you know what I mean? You don't do a whole lot of communicating outside of that. But y'all have done really well, and Mercedes, this is your second year back, and I feel like this year you've just grown more into your profession, and you got some things to go off of. portfolio kind of built up.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
It really helps me a lot. I'm so glad that I get to lean back on y'all when I need help in the future and the career, and I know y'all support me.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, like, even outside, that really helps, and I'm glad, like, y'all really, like, helped me. Because I know some kids, you know, they just choose a job or whatever. But, like, I really, needed this to, like, push me forward, and I think y'all did that for me.
Good, I'm glad. Like, either you can decide you like it or don't, at least.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like I think I did an interview with you last summer about your experience, and I liked that you were like, I used this summer experience to decide if I want to do that job or if I don't.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a really good, you know, opportunity to decide those things.
Yeah, you get a guaranteed job just for, like, a couple months.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, like, forever, and you can be like, I don't like this, or I love this, you know? What about you guys? Is this something that you can see yourself coming back to, or is it something like, well, I tried it and it's cool, but I think I want to try something else?
I plan on trying to come back again next year. I'm going to be going into a cosmetology program for this next school year, so I'm kind of trying to cover all my bases, all my interests, and see what really clicks the most. But I have really enjoyed this and want to come back next year. And
that's great, Kelly. Yeah, I think you should do that. Try every opportunity you can. You know what I mean? If you decide that you want to do the hair thing next summer, we support you. Come see us and say hi, and we'll come see you. What about you, Ethan?
I mean, I really try to, like, see what I like, because I don't really know what I want to do in the future. But
I still don't know.
Yeah. But media is something that I could probably see myself doing. I like seeing how things are made and how things are produced and stuff like that.
One thing that's cool about it is it's like something different every day.
Yeah.
You know, it's never the same. It's not like going to an office and just picking up the phone every day, you know. So there's always an interesting story. So, Mercedes, you're going back to Kansas, right?
Yes.
And you are in your sophomore year of college?
Mm-hmm.
How's that going for you? How are you liking high school, Indians Nations University, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it. It was actually free this past year, so that's why I had went. And
can't beat that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And like to get out of state for free, so great opportunity. And I've enjoyed it.
What is your opinion? Like, why is journalism important to our tribe?
I think it's very important because you're not really taught, like, what true Indigenous people are in school. So I think us using our own voices to get exposure, I mean, that's for anything, not just, like, journalism, but, like, how y'all post on Facebook. I mean, Jared posts videos, and then we have the radio station. I think we have to really expose ourselves because no one else is going to do it for us. So it's very important. That's why I'm so interested in the media field and communications and journalism, because, like, we have to do it ourselves. No one else is going to write over us. Like, our issues are not important to other people in the world. So we just have to use our own voice.
We have to let our own people know the truth,
Yes.
you know, and what goes on, because they'll be lied to, you know, and they'll be manipulated just like we have always been in the past. So, yeah, I agree with you there, and I'm glad to see your passion for it, because there's not a lot of people who can get into journalism. It's not for everybody.
Yes.
You know. So, Callie, what are you doing next after this?
Just, you know, going back to school, trying to finish up.
Yeah. So you got a couple more years left.
Yep.
It'll fly by, girl, I swear. And then why do you feel like journalism is so important to the tribe?
A lot of the same as Mercedes said, just we need to put our voices out there and let people know what's going on in our community, because there's some small things that they really need to be known and heard about and reported on, because, you know, we don't want our history, even just today, to disappear sometime in the future. Like, you know, we're still here, we're still Indigenous.
Oh, yeah, you have to record it, you know what I mean? Write it down, They say write it down, take a picture, put it in the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Ethan? What do you got going on after this?
I'm going to go to the College of the Mvskoke Nation, and I will be majoring in natural resources.
Oh, that'll be fun. Why do you think journalism is so important to the tribe?
I think it's important because people need to know what's going on the tribe, because the regular news isn't going to tell us what's going to happen, and there's a lot of lies, and people just need to know in general.
Yeah, if you guys didn't have Mvskoke Media News and had to rely on outside news for your tribe's information, how misled would you be?
Very.
Or would you even know what was going on?
Yeah, I think we would be poorly educated on our own tribe, which is very bad. And I know a lot of people still depend on other news outlets, which is okay. But sometimes they need to be educated on our own tribe, especially, you were talking about voting wise. So they need to be educated about our own tribe so they're not just walking in blindsided on who to vote for, and not be aware of issues that need to be solved. And some people, past chiefs, have resolved some issues, so they need to be educated.
Yeah, and some have created some. No, I'm just joking. But what was your favorite thing that you guys have done? Was it festival, or is it leaving, or was it starting? And what has been your favorite event that you might have covered or been a part of?
My favorite thing that I've been a part of is probably preparing for Creek Fest and going out there and seeing how people, react to the stuff we make and stuff.
Yeah.
And also going out into the parade.
You like the parade?
Mm-hmm.
So the festival altogether was your fave thing. What about you, Callie?
I really just kind of liked being in the office and being able to talk with people and
daily tasks.
Yeah.
Type thing. Yeah. It's chill, isn't it? It's not bad.
I'm a sucker for simple, repetitive tasks.
Hey, me too. I do the same things all the time. What about you, Mercedes? What was your favorite thing? Favorite event or favorite whatever about the experience? Which I know this year you've kind of got out and done a little bit more. So what about that?
I always think it's the behind the scenes. I tell my mom this all the time. She'll get the paper because she's subscribed, and she'll tell me all this stuff, and I'm like, Mom, I already knew. I was already ahead of you, and I already knew about this. We talked about it in the office, or she read something and she didn't even realize my name was under it. Just really the behind the scenes, y'all's really not credited enough, but I feel like y'all don't even want to be credited sometimes. Y'all's okay with not being credited because y'all's getting information out. That's what y'all want to do.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's crazy because when I would read papers, I would never look at who wrote it or what they're doing. Not never, but that wasn't always my first objective, was to see who wrote it. But now that I'm who wrote that? So is your parents proud seeing you, or are your parents proud seeing you in the paper? That's my kid. Or did they cut it out? Did they put it on the fridge? What did they do? Did they say anything? What about you, Mercedes? You want to go first?
Yeah. So, my grandma was told that someone had read my name, an article, and she was going crazy because apparently y'all had dropped it off at her department, but they were out.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was blaming me, and they always get super excited because I think some people really just don't have a passion for writing. So I think my family seeing me do it, they're just so fascinated by it, and so they really support me and get excited.
Yeah, when I tell people that I'm a journalist, they're like, "What? You're a journalist?" Yeah. I bet that's cool. But yeah, that's good. I'm glad that you have a really good support system. What about you, Kai?
Yeah, I know my parents have been really excited and proud. I've always kind of kept to myself, and I do artwork and stuff, but I'm always like, oh, I'm not gonna sign my name. It's not that big of a deal. So I know that they're happy I'm getting my name out there and actually doing
Always
things.
sign your name.
Yeah.
Always sign your name. or somebody else might. Always do that.
Yes, I've been lately.
Yeah, good. I'm glad, and that's cool. You're only in high school still, and you've been in the newspaper.
Yeah.
You got so much ahead of you. What about you, Ethan?
My parents are really proud that I'm in the newspaper because I'm a very nervous person, and I wouldn't see myself like interviewing somebody and like writing a whole story about it and putting it in the newspaper. I know my grandma's proud of me because every single newspaper that I'm in, she like saves.
Really?
It's in like a little drawer or something.
Are you grandma's dude?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, my son is too. That's great though. Like, I'm really glad that all of you have really great support systems. You have a support system in us as well. We have just a few minutes here, so I'm gonna let all of you read these announcements we have. We have some PSAs, and we'll go weird, and we'll start with Callie because it looks like she has the most upcoming one on the Sparks thing.
Okay. So we're going to be having a Spark Native American Night. That'll be Saturday, July 29th at 7 p.m. It's going to be 20% off on all tickets. You can buy them at okcspark.com if you use the code MCN20.
Is there a phone number on that?
There is not.
Not a phone number.
Just that website.
Yeah. Okay, okcspark.com. Okay, go ahead. Your other one.
So there will be an urban agricultural gardening workshop on August the 4th. So the registration will be from 5 to 5:30 p.m. There will be a welcome and dinner from 5:30 to 6 p.m. Then the workshop will be going on 6 to 6:45. They'll take a break 6:45 to 7. Then a make and take 7 to 8. That'll be at the Yardeca Community Center in Henrietta. RSVP at 918-549-2609.
All right, good job. Thank you, Mercedes.
So the 2023-24 classroom training program is going to be starting for this next school year from Employment and Training, and you can apply online and see if your institution is approved. This is just for classroom training programs provided bi-weekly to full-time students attending the approved institutions on the list. And you can get assistance for tuition, books, equipment, and other fees. So make sure you apply online. And then also there will be an 8th annual Mvskoke Spelling Bee competition Saturday, September 16th. And there will be prizes, and it's a one age category that will be held at Eufaula Community Center. And for more information, study guides, and copy of the rules and contract, that would be 918.
All right, we're cut off here.
The fall postgraduate grant for master's and doctoral programs, the application deadline is August 1st, 2020, this year, obviously.
Join us again next week for more
you can
local,
apply at
tribal, and
MvskokeNation.com/higher education or call 918-732-7661.
Motto.
When I set to lose it all, security struck through the wall. Future dreams we have to realize. 1,000 skeptic hands won't keep us from the things we plan.